I stared at my phone screen, reading the group text that would change everything. My heart hammered against my ribs like a caged bird desperate to escape. The words blurred through my tears, but their meaning burned into my soul with devastating clarity. Girls, I am throwing myself a last-minute bachelorette weekend. Who is in? It will be so much more fun than what we had planned. The message was from Zara Whitfield, my best friend, my maid of honor, the woman I had trusted with my deepest secrets, my wildest dreams, and apparently, my biggest mistake. My wedding was in exactly 8 days. The responses came flooding in like a tsunami of betrayal. Heart emojis, excited exclamations, RSVPs from women who were supposed to be celebrating me, not abandoning me for someone else's spontaneous party. I sank onto my bedroom floor. Designer wedding shoes scattered around me like broken promises. The irony was not lost on me. Here I was, surrounded by all the beautiful things that should have made me the happiest woman alive. And I felt more alone than I had ever felt in my entire 28 years. This was not how it was supposed to happen. Zara and I had been inseparable since we were 22 years old. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Portland, both of us fumbling with our orders, both of us running late for job interviews at competing marketing firms. We laughed about it afterward, bonded over our shared chaos, and somehow turned what should have been rivalry into the most solid friendship I had ever known. Or so I thought. We were the kind of friends who knew each other's coffee orders by heart, who showed up at each other's apartments with ice cream and wine after bad breakups, who got matching infinity tattoos on our wrists during a girl's trip to Miami, swearing we would be sisters forever. The tattoo on my wrist felt like it was burning now. Everything started to change the moment I showed her my engagement ring. I remember that day so vividly it feels like a movie playing in slow motion. I had rushed to her apartment, my heart practically exploding with joy, the diamond catching every ray of sunlight that streamed through her windows. I was glowing. I was radiant. I was everything a newly engaged woman should be. But when I extended my hand toward her, something flickered across her face. Something dark and cold that I had never seen before. "Wow," she said, and her voice carried a strange edge. "I did not think you were the marrying type." The words hit me like a slap across the face, but I forced myself to smile. Maybe I had misheard. Maybe she was just surprised. Maybe the shock of the news had made her tongue slip. "What do you mean?" I asked, still holding out my hand, still hoping for the squeal of excitement I had been expecting. She shrugged, her eyes fixed on the ring like it was something distasteful. "I just always thought you were too independent for all this. Too focused on your career. Marriage seems so traditional for someone like you." Someone like me. The phrase echoed in my head for days afterward. What did that even mean? Was there something wrong with wanting love? With wanting commitment? With wanting to build a life with someone who made me feel like I could conquer the world? But I pushed those doubts aside. I gave her grace. I made excuses for her reaction. Maybe she was going through something. Maybe she was jealous that I had found love first. Maybe she just needed time to adjust to the idea. So I did what I always did when our friendship hit a rough patch. I tried harder. I asked her to be my maid of honor. That was my first mistake. But it would not be my last. The signs started small. Tiny acts of sabotage disguised as forgetfulness or bad luck. She would accidentally double book herself during bridal appointments. She showed up late to my engagement party and spent the entire evening telling anyone who would listen that she was surprised I was settling down so young. When we went dress shopping, she spent more time on her phone than helping me choose the most important dress of my life. "Are you sure about this one?" she asked when I emerged from the fitting room in what would eventually become my wedding dress. "It is just so expected. I thought you would choose something more unique." I stared at myself in the mirror, seeing my reflection surrounded by worried faces. My mother, my sister, my future mother-in-law. All of them looked confused by Zara's reaction. "I love it," I said firmly, and I did. The dress made me feel like a princess, like the bride I had always dreamed of being. "If you say so," Zara replied with a shrug that somehow managed to deflate all the joy from the moment. But it was what she did behind my back that truly broke my heart. I found out about it piece by piece, like a puzzle made of poison. Friends would mention strange comments she had made. Family members would repeat weird conversations they had had with her. Slowly, horrifyingly, I began to see the full picture of her betrayal. She told my fiancé, Kai Montenegro, that I had commitment issues and would probably back out at the last minute. She spread rumors to our mutual friends that I was only marrying him for financial security, not love. She even had the audacity to suggest to my future mother-in-law that maybe they should have a backup plan, in case I got cold feet. Every lie felt like a dagger to my heart. Every manipulation felt like a betrayal of everything our friendship had supposedly meant. But the final straw, the moment that pushed me over the edge from hurt to fury, was that group text about the bachelorette weekend. She had not just forgotten about my celebration. She had not just made other plans. She had actively, deliberately, maliciously planned a competing event designed to steal my bridesmaids and leave me alone during what should have been one of the most special weekends of my life. I sat on my bedroom floor, phone in my hand, watching the responses pour in, watching my friends choose her over me, watching my carefully planned celebration crumble into dust. And that was when something inside me shifted. The hurt was still there, raw and bleeding and terrible. But underneath it, something else was growing. Something cold and calculating and absolutely ruthless. If Zara wanted to play games, I would show her what a real game looked like. I wiped my tears and stood up, smoothing down my silk robe with hands that had stopped trembling. I walked to my laptop and opened a new document. At the top, I typed, Operation Truth Bomb. I was going to give Zara exactly what she deserved. But I was going to do it with style. The first step was research. I went through months of text messages, voice notes, and social media posts. I screenshotted conversations where she badmouthed me to mutual friends. I saved voice recordings where she gleefully described her plans to bring me down a peg. I collected evidence of every lie, every manipulation, every cruel comment she had made about me and my relationship. The picture that emerged was devastating. This was not just a friend having doubts or concerns. This was a systematic campaign of sabotage orchestrated by someone who was supposed to love me. But as much as it hurt to see the truth laid out so clearly, it also gave me power. Because now I had receipts. The second step was planning. I spent hours crafting the perfect strategy, thinking through every detail, every possible outcome. I was not going to be emotional or reactive. I was going to be surgical. I started with the bachelorette weekend. Instead of begging my friends to choose me over her, I simply sent a group text. I hope you all have an amazing time with Zara this weekend. I will be having a quiet celebration at home with the friends who chose to stay. No hard feelings, we all know where we stand now. The message was polite, gracious, and absolutely loaded with subtext. Within hours, 3 of my bridesmaids who had originally said yes to Zara's weekend sent me private messages saying they had changed their minds and wanted to celebrate with me instead. But that was just the beginning. The third step was the most important, the wedding itself. I did not uninvite Zara. I did not confront her. I did not even let her know that I knew what she had been doing. Instead, I sent her the most beautiful, elegant invitation she had ever received. Gold foil embossing, hand-calligraphed lettering, thick cream-colored cardstock that screamed luxury and class. And right at the bottom in delicate script, reserved seating, front row guest of honor. She called me within an hour of receiving it. Oh my God. This invitation is gorgeous, she gushed, and I could hear the excitement in her voice. And front row seating? You are so sweet. I cannot wait to see you walk down that aisle. I cannot wait either, I replied, and I meant every word, just not in the way she thought. The week leading up to the wedding was a blur of final preparations. Flowers were arranged. The venue was decorated. The catering was confirmed. Everything was falling into place beautifully. But the most important element was not flowers or food or music. It was the video. I had hired a professional videographer, ostensibly to create a pre-ceremony slideshow of Kai and my love story. The kind of sweet, romantic montage that plays while guests are being seated, setting the mood for the celebration to come. What I actually created was something far more powerful. The video started exactly as expected. Beautiful photos of Kai and me from our first date to our engagement. Images of us hiking through the Columbia River Gorge, laughing over dinner at our favorite restaurant, dancing at a friend's wedding where we realized we wanted this for ourselves. The first 3 minutes were pure romance, pure joy, pure love. And then the tone shifted. The music changed from a soft ballad to something more ominous. The photos faded to black, and new images appeared on the screen. Screenshots of text messages, voice note transcriptions, social media posts, all of them featuring Zara's own words, her own voice, her own cruel intentions laid bare for everyone to see. The group text about the competing bachelorette weekend, time-stamped and undeniable. Voice notes where she gleefully described her plan to knock me off my high horse. Messages to mutual friends where she claimed I was desperate and pathetic for wanting to get married so young. Screenshots of her social media posts where she mocked my engagement photos and called my relationship fake. Each piece of evidence was presented with clinical precision. No angry commentary from me. No dramatic music or effects. Just her own words, displayed in elegant fonts against a simple black background. The most damning evidence came at the end. A recording from just 2 weeks before the wedding, when she thought she was having a private conversation with another friend. I honestly cannot believe she is going through with this. Her voice rang out clear as a bell through the sound system. Kai is way too good for her. She is going to ruin his life, and someone needs to stop this wedding before it is too late. I am doing everyone a favor by showing them who she really is. The video ended with a simple message in white text. Truth has a way of walking down the aisle. Then the music swelled back to the romantic melody, and the slideshow returned to beautiful photos of Kai and me, as if nothing had happened. But everything had happened. I was in the bridal suite when the video played, surrounded by my remaining bridesmaids, the ones who had chosen to stand by me when it mattered most. We could hear the gasps and murmurs from the sanctuary even through the closed doors. "Are you sure about this?" asked my sister Luna, her face pale with worry. "This is going to create a lot of drama." I looked at myself in the mirror, adjusting my veil with steady hands. "The drama already existed," I said calmly. "I am just making sure it has the right spotlight." My maid of honor, a role that had gone to Luna after Zara's betrayal, became undeniable, squeezed my hand. "You look beautiful," she said. "And you look strong. Kai is lucky to have you." "I am lucky to have him too," I replied, and I meant it. Throughout all of Zara's manipulation and sabotage, Kai had been my rock. He had seen through her lies from the beginning, and had supported my decision to handle things my way. "Are you ready?" Luna asked. I took one last look in the mirror. My dress was perfect. My makeup was flawless. My heart was full of love for the man waiting for me at the altar. And my conscience was completely clear. I am ready. The walk from the bridal suite to the sanctuary felt like a journey through a battlefield. I could hear the buzz of conversation, the shocked whispers, the uncomfortable shuffling as guests processed what they had just witnessed. But as the doors opened and the wedding march began, everything else faded away. Except for one thing. Zara's empty chair in the front row. She had fled. Of course she had. Confronted with the truth of her own actions, displayed for everyone to see, she had done what bullies always do when their cruelty is exposed. She had run. But I barely noticed her absence. How could I, when Kai was standing at the altar looking at me like I was the only person in the world? How could I focus on someone who had tried to destroy this moment when the love of my life was waiting to make me his wife? I walked down that aisle with my head held high and my heart full of joy. Every step took me further away from the toxicity Zara had tried to poison my life with, and closer to the future I had always dreamed of. When I reached Kai, he took my hands and whispered, "You are magnificent." "Even after all that drama?" I whispered back. "Especially after all that drama," he replied with a grin. "You handled that with more grace than she deserved." The ceremony was beautiful. Perfect. Everything I had imagined and more. We exchanged vows that brought tears to every eye in the sanctuary. We kissed as husband and wife while our guests erupted in cheers and applause. And during the reception, something magical happened. Instead of the awkward, uncomfortable celebration I had feared, surrounded by people who were unsure of what to think or say, I found myself at the center of the most supportive, loving party I could have imagined. Guest after guest approached me to apologize for believing Zara's lies, to thank me for opening their eyes to her true nature, to tell me how impressed they were with the way I had handled the situation. "I have never seen anything like that," said my college roommate, tears in her eyes. "The way you let the truth speak for itself. It was incredible. You did not stoop to her level. You just held up a mirror and let everyone see who she really was." "I cannot believe we almost missed your wedding for her stupid weekend," added another friend. "Thank God we came to our senses. This is the most beautiful celebration I have ever been to." Even my new mother-in-law, who had been one of Zara's targets, pulled me aside during dinner. "I owe you an apology," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I let her poison my mind with doubts about you and your intentions. I should have known better. Anyone can see how much you and Kai love each other. I am sorry I ever questioned that." "You do not need to apologize," I told her, squeezing her hand. She was very convincing. That was part of what made her so dangerous. But the most meaningful conversation of the night came from an unexpected source. "Excuse me? Are you the bride?" I turned to see a young woman I did not recognize, probably in her early 20s, with tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I am. I am sorry, I do not think we have met." "We have not," she said, wiping her eyes. "I am Zara's cousin, Melody. I was supposed to be here as her plus one, but after what I just saw, I had to stay. I had to talk to you." My heart skipped a beat. "Oh, she has been doing this her whole life," Melody continued, her voice shaking with emotion. "To me, to other cousins, to every friend she has ever had. She finds someone happy and successful and she destroys them piece by piece. She destroyed my engagement 2 years ago with the same tactics she used on you." I felt a chill run down my spine. "I am so sorry." "Do not be sorry," Melody said fiercely. "Be proud. You are the first person who has ever stood up to her. The first person who has ever made her face consequences for her actions. What you did tonight, it was not revenge. It was justice." She hugged me tightly, and I realized that my decision to expose Zara had done more than protect my own wedding. It had potentially saved other women from experiencing the same betrayal and heartbreak I had endured. As the night went on, I learned that several other people had similar stories about Zara, a pattern of manipulation and sabotage that went back years. My wedding had not just been her latest target. It had been the culmination of a long history of toxic behavior. By exposing her at my wedding, I had not just protected myself. I had protected every future friend, every future target, every future victim she might have chosen. The thought filled me with a deep sense of satisfaction that had nothing to do with revenge, and everything to do with justice. Around midnight, as the reception was winding down and Kai and I were preparing to leave for our honeymoon, I found myself standing alone on the venue's terrace, looking out at the city lights. I thought about the woman I had been a year ago, when Kai first proposed. Trusting. Naive. So eager to see the best in everyone that I had ignored the warning signs right in front of me. That woman would have been destroyed by Zara's betrayal. She would have spent her wedding day crying, wondering what she had done wrong, blaming herself for the failure of a friendship she had treasured. But I was not that woman anymore. I was stronger now. Wiser. More careful with my trust, but not cynical. More aware of people's capacity for cruelty, but not bitter. I had learned that grace does not mean being a doormat. That forgiveness does not require silence. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and for others, is to hold people accountable for their actions. "There you are." Kai's voice came from behind me as he stepped onto the terrace, loosening his tie. I was wondering where my wife had disappeared to. Wife. The word sent a thrill through me that I knew would never get old. "Just thinking," I said, leaning into him as he wrapped his arms around me from behind. "About what?" "About how different this day could have been if I had handled things differently. If I had just suffered in silence, or tried to fight fire with fire, or let her destroy everything I had worked so hard to build." "But you did not," Kai murmured against my hair. "You found a way to protect yourself and everyone else without becoming the villain. I have never been more proud of anyone in my entire life." I turned in his arms, looking up at the man who had stood by me through everything, who had believed in me when others doubted. who had loved me enough to support even my most unconventional decisions. "I love you, husband," I said, savoring the new word. "I love you too, wife," he replied, and then he kissed me under the stars while the city sparkled around us. The next morning, as we prepared to leave for our honeymoon in Tuscany, I received a series of text messages that I had been expecting. The first was from my sister. "Zara has been calling everyone, trying to do damage control. No one is buying it. Her own family is cutting her off after what Melody told them last night." The second was from my former college roommate. "You will not believe this, but 3 other women have reached out to me today with similar stories about Zara. You have started something bigger than you know." The third was from a number I did not recognize. "This is Melody, Zara's cousin. I wanted you to know that my aunt and uncle have decided to get Zara professional help. What happened at your wedding was a wake-up call for the whole family. Thank you for giving her the push she needed to face her problems." I showed the messages to Kai as we waited for our ride to the airport. "How do you feel about all this?" he asked. I considered the question carefully. How did I feel? Vindicated, certainly. Satisfied that justice had been served. Relieved that the truth was finally out in the open. But more than anything, I felt free. Free from the toxicity that had been poisoning my life for months. Free from the self-doubt and confusion that Zara's manipulation had created. Free from the fear that she would continue to sabotage my happiness. And perhaps most importantly, free to focus on the future I was building with the man I loved, without looking over my shoulder for the next attack. "I feel like I can finally breathe again," I told him honestly. "Good," he said, kissing the top of my head. "Because we have a lifetime of happiness ahead of us, and I do not want anything to dim that light." As our car pulled up to take us to the airport, I took one last look at the city where so much had happened, where I had met Zara and trusted her, where I had fallen in love with Kai and planned our wedding, where I had learned hard lessons about friendship and betrayal, and the power of truth. It was a chapter of my life that was now closed, not with bitterness or regret, but with wisdom and strength and an unshakable faith in my own worth. I had given Zara the best seat in the house to watch her own downfall. But more importantly, I had given myself something infinitely more valuable. The knowledge that I would never again accept anything less than the love and respect I deserved. And as Kai and I drove toward the airport, toward our honeymoon, toward our future together, I knew that the best part of my story was just beginning. The woman who had tried to ruin my wedding had ultimately given me the greatest gift of all. The strength to stand up for myself and the wisdom to recognize real love when I found it. And for that, in a strange way, I was almost grateful. But only almost. Because some betrayals can teach you valuable lessons without earning your forgiveness. Some people can change your life for the better, by showing you exactly who they are. And sometimes, the most beautiful revenge is simply living well, loving deeply, and refusing to let anyone dim your light. I walked down that aisle with my head held high, my heart full of love, and my conscience completely clear. I married my best friend in front of people who truly cared about us. I celebrated with family and friends who had proven their loyalty when it mattered most. And I did it all while the woman who had tried to destroy me sat in the front row, watching her own lies crumble in real time. It was, without question, the most perfect wedding day I could have ever imagined. Not because it went according to plan, but because it revealed the truth about everyone in my life. It separated the real from the fake, the loyal from the treacherous, the love from the lies. And in the end, that was the greatest wedding gift I could have received. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories of justice, revenge, and triumph. Hit that notification bell, so you never miss a story that will leave you speechless. Your support means everything to us.